Hello everyone, I'm Nhlanhla Ndlovu and welcome to On the Couch. So today I'll be chatting to Nhlanhla Ndlovu, who is a social entrepreneur from Soweto. Nhlanhla is the founder of Hustlenomics, an organization or a company that replaces backyard shacks with affordable and sustainable housing using recycled bricks. Nhlanhla, how are you? How are you doing?
It's very great under the circumstances. The lockdown has us depressed and stressed all around.
So before you tell me about this depression and how you are handling it and like all the stresses that come with lockdown, in my intro, I tried to give a bit of a background of what Hustlenomics is. I don't think I did it a lot of justice because I think there's a lot more that you guys do. So can you just give me a bit of background on who Nhlanhla is and how and why he started the Hustlenomics?
So Nhlanhla is a Soweto guy. So I grew up in a township with a big family. So we grew up living in a four-room house where I had to live with 12 other siblings, and we had to share living space. So what usually happened is that during the evening, if we had to go to bed, you basically had people sleeping in the two bedrooms, and some of us would have to make our bed in the living room. Some would even sleep in the kitchen. So as I grew older, I got to understand why we actually live that way. Although it brought us closer together, but I grew up and got to understand which we weren't privileged enough to actually build extra accommodation, an extension to the main house, so that we could have more space. So as I grew up, I got to find some work to qualify for credit. So basically how it works in the townships, most families who qualify for credit, they would go to your local hardwares and they would take building materials on credit, and they would hire a local construction company to actually build the structures for them. So I actually realized that we didn't qualify for any type of credit because we didn't earn enough. Even with our salaries put together, it was basically funds enough for us to feed ourselves. So as time went on, to basically cut building costs, I took it upon myself to actually get building skills. So at least that way I knew if we get to a point where we can qualify to get credit, at least I'll be able to use the materials and build minus the expenses of actually paying someone to actually build a structure for us. So initially this started with me solving my own problem, but I got to understand the overall challenge that most families face because I had friends who came from a similar background and they were also living in their own little shacks. So how we even have shacks in the first place, we find that most families, because they're not earning enough, they would build these small shacks in the backyard of the house where they either renting them out to actually use the extra income to feed the family, or sometimes you'll find that they would build those shacks to actually accommodate the extra family members. So I was one of those people that actually built their own small shack in the backyard, so at least I would get my own private space. And I actually saw some of my friends also had those shacks. But one of the challenges of living in a shack is that during summer, you can't even sit there because it's a cooler box. It's basically hot. During winter, it's cold. And somehow, whenever it's raining, the water would find a way to get through the house. So this was a similar situation. As I walked around and saw so many shacks, I got to understand that this is actually a huge problem. So that's where the whole idea of Hustlenomics came about, where once I started building my own structure, there were other families around the community that actually asked for my services, where they could also build in small amounts. Because building a bigger structure would take you something like a month, but it took me 4 years to actually build a structure because I had to buy the building materials in small amounts, and I would build whenever I had the time because I was working at the time. And most families were actually impressed by that, saying, rather than staying for 10, 15 years without affording, if we took the little amount that we have and start building, even if it takes 3 or 4 years, at least in the end, we'd actually have something to accommodate either family or to rent it out for the extra income. So we started doing this for me and my friends, and as time went on, we started helping other families. That's how Hustlenomics was actually born, and it became an idea where we tried to solve the problem of eradicating informal backyard shacks and creating a sustainable income for the homeowners, whilst at the same time we'd be creating skills and employment for the youth in the community. So basically, Hustlenomics is a for-profit, impact-driven social enterprise that's dedicated to replacing those informal paycheck checks with formal jewelry structures using innovative building technology. So what we initially found out once we were trying to relocate these checks using and building brick and mortar building materials, we discovered this innovative building technology that would cut your building cost by up to 30%. So we started using interlocking bricks. So we had to train people in the community to make those bricks and to build using those bricks. So basically, we target low-income households who have informal paycheck checks and replace the checks with formal jewelry structures at no cost to the homeowners. So we would come in, build a 4-unit structure. Out of the 4 units, the homeowner for the first 18 months, they would own 25% in the form of a single unit, and would then find and place tenants in the 3 remaining units and recoup the cost over 18 months, which is our break-even point. And then we give them another 25% and continue collecting from the 2 units for another 18 months. So every 18 months, we hand over 25% in the form of a single unit. We actually recoup our cost after 18 months, and we make a profit, which is roughly 100%, which gives us the opportunity to actually scale and replicate the business model.
Yo, that's incredible. Yo, Nhlanhla. Okay, I've got a lot of questions now, just from you explaining what it is and how things work at Hustlenomics, right? In the beginning, you're saying, Uti, it's not easy for people to actually have the money or the funds to build those structures. How did your financing model come about? How did you figure out how to start building for Abantu without them having to pop out anything?
So how it came about is that initially, as we started building for cash-paying customers, we had to compete with other construction companies in the same space. So how it initially works is that most families that can afford to get credit, they would get credit from the local hardware, and they would hire a construction company to actually build for them. So we came in using the same route, where because we had the skills, I had a team of people who also had complementary skills. One friend of mine would be a plumber, one would be an electrician, one would be a carpenter. So we had a whole team where we could execute the whole project from start to completion. But the initial challenge was that we now had to go in the same space. If someone came in and said, I can do the same project for 15,000 rands, and then someone else would come in and undercut them and say they can do it for 12. So we couldn't compete in that same space because we constantly had to compete with other construction companies, whilst at the same time, most families that needed the service couldn't afford the service. So although we were busy competing, there were not enough jobs for us to execute. There were still so many people with checks, but they couldn't replace those checks because they don't qualify for any credit, or they cannot pay anyone to actually provide the service for them by them paying the person that's going to build for them. So what that initially led to, we came up with a model saying, what if we approach the same families that have checks, we raise the funds from the profits that we make from whatever jobs that we actually get, instead of the family taking 4 years to build the structure like I initially took, we can try to make sure that they can get the same project in 1 month. And then over the period of 4 years, they would get full ownership, but at the same time, every year, they would get a bigger share of the structure. That way, it's a win-win for everyone. They usually get access to affordable finance, and they do not have to pay upfront for the services of us building, because we also cover that during the building process, and we recoup the cost, same using the rental. So this basically solves the problem of us having to compete with other construction companies and coming in and undercutting us. And it also gives access to these families that cannot get access to traditional home financing. And we also give them the opportunity to actually be able to afford the services for someone to actually build for them. So in that same space, we had the opportunity to create more jobs for ourselves. And because the problem is so big, we now had to actually create employment for more people to be able to actually scale the business. So that's actually how it actually came about.
That's incredible. So you're telling me about the challenges. I think you're a very innovative person. I think you're always trying to come up with solutions that are benefiting everybody involved, right? And you're talking about some of the challenges that you faced at the beginning, where you were basically competing with bigger construction companies. Now, under lockdown, right? What are some of the challenges that your business is facing, and how are you tackling all of those things? Because Nyaz, you're always I think you're one of the biggest hustlers I know. You are always somebody with answers. So I know that lockdown is challenging at the moment, but what are the challenges for you specifically, and how are you facing those? How are you tackling those challenges?
I say in our case, we were actually lucky enough that we basically raised the funds in advance to actually execute on our project, although we recoup the cost over a period of time. Business-wise, we are able to actually cover our own costs and continue working with those same projects to execute on the project. The biggest challenge was that we still cannot get access to building materials because all the hardwares now are on lockdown. They cannot supply us with the materials. Some of the materials we already paid for in advance, but they cannot deliver because obviously their own suppliers cannot supply them with the materials. That's one challenge that we had to sit down, although we could work and keep within the precautions that we have to take not to spread the virus, we still couldn't get the materials. Another huge challenge is that because most of the tenants that we have are actually informal traders, most of them. And you'd find informal traders couldn't actually work at all. So these are the same people that have to afford the rent to actually pay for the rent. Now, we also have to understand that even if they are tenants, they cannot go out and actually hustle out there. So we basically catering for other hustlers because most of the people that live in the shacks, they're trying to find affordable accommodation. They do not have formal employment. They do not have the pay slips. And we work around those barriers. And we have to be accommodating enough to actually understand that they're not earning an income that actually impacts on our timeline of us recouping the cost. So we now have to understand on that. And some of the tenants, although they are actually employed, you find that most of them are earning half their salaries. And that can only cover their basics of actually earning a living where they can buy groceries, but they can't cover their rent. So although we are a startup company, we also have to understand and accommodate some of our clients that they're not earning enough as much as we're not earning. So that's one of the other impacts that we actually had to have. And luckily enough, because we still have access to some of the grant funding, the guys that work with me are also not earning an income. And as a startup, I cannot actually cover their salaries, but I had to go out of my way and actually at least take some of the portion from the grant funding to give them half of whatever they normally make in a month. So although we're not doing the work, I still have to pay them. And I have to understand that they also have their own families to actually look after. So, and they are the business because without them, we can't actually do any work. And it took us a bit of a while to get and train people that can actually use this technology. So I'm relying on them to actually be able to move faster. So I think those are some of the big challenges that I had to face during the lockdown. And I had to understand it's all around. There's nothing we can do about it.
So what is your main focus now? I know you're saying that you're taking some of the funding that you have, and you're trying to ensure that the people that work for you are at least okay and they're earning something. So what would you say you're focusing the most now on your business, since you can't necessarily be out there building these structures? What are you doing for the business right now that you can do while under lockdown?
I'd say my focus was mostly on myself, personal development wise, because the past couple of months I've mostly been focusing on the technical side of business. I'm now at a point where I actually have a team around me. I don't always have to be on site. They even chase me away intentionally that whenever you're around, you can't actually work comfortably. So I'm now teaching myself to focus more on the admin side of things. So we've been lacking mostly on processes and systems, especially on the admin side. So I've mostly been focusing on trying to put that in order. The past couple of months, we've had an opportunity to work with some organizations where they gave us students to actually help us develop those processes and systems. So some of those students actually had to leave the country because of the shutdown. So we're mostly working online to actually try to get those going. And I've been reaching out to suppliers. So we're currently in a state where we were trying to get access to a truck, to buy a truck. So I'm busy calling around to see quotes and see what type of truck we can get. With the funds we have, we're looking for a piece of land where we can actually operate from. So I'm also looking around to see if what piece of land is actually available for us to actually go. I'm working on things like we have to buy certain equipment. So I've basically been shopping around, doing quotes so that when they open for operation, at least we know what we're going to start with so that it doesn't delay the process of actually doing more projects. So mostly it's admin, and I've been attending online workshops. I've mostly been learning online. So it's a journey. It's all part of the process. So
It sounds like it's very challenging because you kind of have to shift your mindset and you have to be a bit more fluid. And I hear you're supporting all of these people and you're trying to be very understanding. But who is your support structure? Where are you going for support during this time?
I think one of the nice things is actually the network that we've actually built around us. We've learned that we don't have to do everything alone. We no longer work in silos. We're basically collaborating with entrepreneurs, we do joint ventures. Whenever you feel down, you know who you can actually reach out to. So I've met different entrepreneurs from different programs where we've now become one big family. They're going through some of the struggles that we actually going through. So you would go online, you chat to someone, and you'd say, this is what you're going through. And they tell you how they handled it. They're the ones that recommend some of the programs that we actually are attending online. You find that further has these sessions that we have during the week where we can do meditation on particular days. And on Fridays, they have these workshops that actually help us develop further. And we get to link up and connect with entrepreneurs. Those are things that actually keep you sane whilst you're on lockdown, because we're all on lockdown. But I also have a guy that actually works with me where we start here together. So we would from time to time just walk around to figure out what our next days should be and start preparing in advance. But those are some of the things that have been part of my support structure, and mainly my family, since they're here, they also give me that support.
And what would you say that you're learning about yourself now during lockdown that you didn't even know? Like, I think for me, Nanje, I'm also, there are things about myself. I didn't know that I was this patient. I didn't know that I could be this resilient. What are some of the things that you've noticed about yourself that you sit and like, you're like, yeah, like I did that. I can actually do this. What are the things that you're noticing about Nhlanhla that you didn't really realize prior to lockdown?
I'd say, I think I've realized that I like being a problem solver. I've seen even with the pandemic, we've raised a lot of problems. Two examples that while I was sitting down, I started thinking about those things. We started appreciating the essential workers that most of the time are there at the bottom of the chain, where we don't normally think they're actually important to the economy. And we've actually realized how important they are, because most people cannot work during the shutdown. So the sad part is that there have been some people that actually passed on during the shutdown, and it actually sucks that they would only allow about 50 people at the funeral. And most of us, when we go to those funerals, we go there to actually assist the family, where even if we closing the grave and stuff like that. And you realize that businesses like grave fillers, where previously we didn't think it was a genius idea, now you actually realize that they're actually playing an important role, because there's minimum people that are there to actually support the family and to actually do that type of work. And I started even thinking around that, because now we mostly rely on technology for most of our businesses. And I was thinking, okay, because most people can't go to the funeral, why hasn't someone thought of actually, because like we're connecting now, you'll find that we're connecting online. If someone can live stream something, then some family members couldn't attend funerals because they were happening kilometers away and they couldn't attend. And I'm thinking, if the funeral parlors had thought of trying to live stream some of those funerals, most people could be able to log on and be able to say their last goodbyes. And I'm thinking, and how come nobody thought of that? So I'm constantly trying to figure out what challenges we're facing during the lockdown, and I'm trying to figure out how would we approach them. And I've seen entrepreneurs who actually thrived during the lockdown. One of them, the guy, is it Zilzo, without that delivering food.
Oh,
Delivering
Zulzi.
food.
Yes, Zulzi,
Yeah.
the food delivery service guys. Yes, Zulzi.
And to think they started in 2013 until now, and they actually got their breakthrough because of the lockdown. And I saw Zakeni, because most of his education is basically online. He also raised funding during this. So they're getting breakthroughs because they're now actually necessary. And I'm hoping that some of them, when they get a breakthrough, even after lockdown, they won't actually go back down. It's something that's going to constantly grow and move forward. So those are things that I'm thinking about, that there's so many opportunities. One of the things that actually hurt my feelings was during the lockdown, I actually saw some of the people that are living in the squatter camps being actually removed from the land whilst we were supposed to stay in one place. Now they were taking the roof over their heads, and I didn't know where they were actually going to end up. And just seeing people having to live in a shack where family, they can't go anywhere, and there's 4 or 5 people living in the same shack. And I'm actually realizing this we can't back down now. These are actually existing problems that we constantly have to try and solve. So even if there's challenges that come my way, it's going to be hard for me to actually back down because I'm seeing the reality of things actually happening out here.
That's
So
exactly what I wanted to chat to you about. Uti, right now during this time, what are the things that, I mean, I think housing is one of one of our biggest issues in the country, right? And it's something that you're trying to tackle. And a lot of people during lockdown, were saying, yes, just stay at home, be safe, make sure that you're social distancing. And I think a lot of people don't really understand the struggles of being from the township and how some of us can't necessarily social distance, right? So how much more do you think your business is important during this time? Like how has lockdown showed you the importance of e-hustlenomics, and how are you intending on continuing and ensuring that there is growth within that space?
I think what I realize is that the market that I'm trying to cater to are mostly the ones that are actually affected, because there have been companies that came through that are trying to solve the same problem I'm solving, but most of them would then move their focus and try to focus on people that can afford their services. Some of them would replace the same shacks in the yard, but their rent would go as high as 2,500 or 2,000 rands. And we know that the same people that used to live in the shack cannot afford that type of rent. So I'm realizing now, although there are people coming in the same space that I'm in, they're not really catering for the same market. And I'm constantly trying to find innovative ways to make sure that we go as cheap as possible and we make sure that it's affordable, because we don't want the same people that used to live in the shack to actually be displaced. And we're also coming with a model where we're trying to find out how can we actually assist people who are living in the informal settlement. Because currently we focused in the backyard informal shacks, but we're also trying to see how we can actually move into the space of people in the informal settlement. So I see it's very important, especially for the market that we're trying to target and trying to focus on, that most people are actually living in the cold, they're focusing on.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. Konamanje, so you're talking a lot about being fluid and understanding that as an entrepreneur, you need to always be able to move with the times, right? Konamanje, you were meant to be in London. I heard Uti, you had won the Shivers Venture Acceleration, well, the South African leg that is, and you were meant to be in London at the moment, representing that side, and that obviously had to be cancelled because of COVID. So how important is it to be fluid as an entrepreneur? And how have you managed to just let go of some things that you knew were meant to be happening around this time and just say, let's go with the flow?
Can you just kindly explain to me what you mean by fluid?
Like how have you managed to be able to not be rigid and not say this is what I was meant to be doing right now, so this is how I'm going to continue with those plans, but rather let me see how I change things around? How have you managed to be able to just be flexible, Gagnan?
I think our model has actually evolved over the 5 years that we actually existed. Initially, when we started, the initial goal was to just build 3 units, and we're just focusing on us. We were going to recoup our cost using the 3 units. And then we got to understand that in some of those shacks, there's actually family members that live there, and these families are dependent on this income. Hence, we ended up adding the 4th unit. So that's the first thing that we actually decided to do. And then as time went on, we discovered that the same units that we're building, most of the shack tenants that used to live in the shacks, they cannot afford the rent of living in these units. So we end up subdividing some of the units to make sure that we still get the same amount back, but the tenants would share the rent of that unit into 2 smaller units. And then as time went on, we discovered that we can actually use recycled building materials to actually make our bricks, and that would actually cut our cost even further. So initially when we started, we didn't have the recycled materials, we didn't have 4 units, we didn't have subdivision between the units to make sure it's still affordable, and we're still trying to find innovative ways of actually working. What we initially learned in the end, we meet other entrepreneurs who are in the same space, and we also use their product if it's going to help us cut our building cost even further. Some yards are a little small, so the goal is to actually build maybe not just a single story building, maybe up to 2 stories. But now it becomes a little expensive because we now have to add extra cost for the slab. And we came across entrepreneurs who are using an innovative construction method called the floated floor system, where the slab is a bit cheaper and it's 50% lighter. So we're constantly trying to collaborate with other entrepreneurs that are going to bring innovative products within the same product that we're actually doing to bring the cost down. And we're hoping in the future we'd actually explore construction methods like 3D printing, which is going to cut your building cost by 50%. And it's also faster. We can build one project in a single day or maximum 2 days. So we're exploring those things and using innovative products to bring it in. So we've basically been evolving and we're exploring how we can use technology and improve the cost and the time frame of delivering the products.
It seems to me that you're the kind of person who kind of thrives off of struggles and you thrive off of challenges and issues. So when something comes across, you are that person that's like, oh, okay, there's a big problem. This is really exciting for me. Let me see how I can make this better. So for social entrepreneurs or other SMMEs out there who are struggling during this time, who don't necessarily think like Nhlanhla and say, well, this is where I am. Let me see what else I can do to make things or make the situation the best that I can. What advice do you have for them? Like the SMMEs who are sitting at home now, feeling like, maybe this wasn't the right decision. I should not have gone this route. What advice do you have for them?
So when it comes to advice, I feel I'm still also a student to the game. So it's normally easy for me to reference from my own personal experiences most of the time. So some of the things that I talk about, it's stuff that I actually went through and got to understand in my own perspective or point of view. So I'd say one of the things is that I've learned that with every challenge, you find that there's actually lessons. So we shouldn't first be afraid of failure, because if you see failure as a challenge, then those are some of the things that are just going to set you back and make you give up in your dream. So for me, failure are just learning curves, where you learn that there's other ways of actually doing it. So that's one of the first things that I'm going to actually advise them. And I'd say sometimes you need to find something that you actually have passion for, because it's easy to give up on something if you don't have the passion. When you come across quotes that say, if you find something you like, you don't have to work a day in your life. I actually believe in those statements because it doesn't feel like working. So even if I wasn't getting paid for it, I'd still be doing it. So those are some of the things. And you constantly have to be persistent in pursuing something, because we come across different people that we think are smarter than us, and we try to get advice. And some people would actually advise you from their own point of reference. They don't really understand what you're trying to achieve. And if you go to some of your friends, they would measure you against themselves, where if I can't do it, I don't expect you to actually be able to do it. So we constantly have to find our own voice. And if we believe in something, just go after it. And then if you fail, it's a learning curve. It's just going to lead you something even maybe different or something greater, because I've learned from my failures and it took me to different directions where it got me to a point where I'm thinking totally different when it comes to actually coming across challenges. Hence, you're saying I thrive when I come across those challenges. So I'm not really expecting giving advice, but from experience, from what I've experienced, I think those are some of the things that you have to keep in mind.
I think that's awesome advice. Like sticking to that. You were saying, Uti, you'll meet different people who will advise you on different things, and it's not necessarily the way. What entrepreneurial advice have you come across, right, that you disagree with, and why do you disagree with it? What along your journey, what was the advice that somebody had given you, saying, Uti, maybe as a business owner, this is what you need to do, and this is how things are done, that you are like, nope, not necessarily?
I think the biggest one is that we, as social entrepreneurs, we come across most people that don't even understand what social entrepreneurship is. So I'm basically married to my problem and not the solution. I can change the solution in many ways, but still solve the same problem. So I've come across people where most would focus on the technology and say, I need to own the technology, to have patents, and this won't work because I don't have this. But I'm saying, no, it's not about the technology. It's actually about the problem. I can use any other technology using the same model. And I've come across people advising me to focus on just the bricks. Your business is bricks. I'm saying, no, but my business is not bricks. I'm just using the bricks as a vehicle to actually solve this problem. Tomorrow, I can find something cheaper that's more durable, and I can move away from this and go into that technology, but solve the same problem. So those are type of things where even when we enter competitions, sometimes we find that you don't win thinking you have a better idea, but only to find that the judges behind those seats have their own experience and their own point of reference. I've won competitions because there was someone that was in construction and they understood what I was pitching and they could see beyond what the other people could see. And I've been in competition where I didn't win, not because it was a better idea, but because the person there understood technology more, and the guy that's actually pitching technology got the edge over me. So I got to understand, and I've seen entrepreneurs heartbroken when they pitch and they tell them their idea won't work, and they're crying there and they're giving up on their idea. So I've actually learned that it depends on who you pitch to. And we were lucky enough to actually be involved with programs like Red Bull Amapigo, Spark YCAP, where their core focus was actually social entrepreneurs. And I always mention that with the Red Bull program, they were the foundations. And every other program started adding layers where they would add the windows and the doors. So I use my reference because I'm in construction. But without the foundation, you'll find that the house won't stand. And I've come across people now who try to break me down. And it's not easy for me to actually feel bad because the support that I've received and the structure that they've actually built me on makes me believe, because there's people who believe in my idea, and their core focus was building me, not even my idea. Because I remember the Red Bull program was focusing on the entrepreneur themselves. So there's no opinion that can tell me that I have a bad idea. And right now, there's people who only respect me because of the milestones that we've actually reached now. I'm now a genius and I have this great idea. And actually, those are the same people when I started, they didn't see my vision. So those are the type of things that we actually come across. But we've learned and grew a thick skin, and we've built networks and friends around ourselves where we basically constantly growing and learning.
And talking about your wins, you've had quite a few wins. I mean, just watching you grow over the years has been, yeah, it's been an exciting journey to watch. What would you say has been the most exciting minute of your entrepreneurial journey? When was that one time when something happened and you were like, oh my goodness, this it's finally happening? Like the most exciting minute of your whole journey. Just one. Just try and give me one.
Okay, so I'd say one would be the SAP award. So when we got into the SAP competition, I aimed as low as possible. I was excited to be a finalist because I already knew we were gonna get part of the prize money. So we only planned around that. So if we get this smaller portion, at least we can do this and this and that. So I didn't actually go in there with high expectations. I was aiming so low that I wouldn't be disappointed if we didn't get the overall prize. So I was actually shocked. I was really shocked when we actually ended up winning the whole thing. I didn't know what to do with myself at that time and point. Yeah, so I think that was one of the biggest ones because we were able to do a lot of stuff with the money that we actually won from the competition.
All right. You are very passionate about what you do. Just the way in which you speak about it, every time you speak about Hustlenomics and just building these affordable structures and being innovative around the work that you do, I can see, Uguti, it's something that you really, really love. But what is the one thing that gives you joy about what you do? What do you love the most about lo msebenzi owenzayo?
I think from personal experience, understanding how it feels to live in a shack, I know the benefits of actually having a formal house. So one of the things that makes me love it even more is the fact that I understand the bigger picture and the problem at large. Because coming from a disadvantaged background, you end up being exposed to start will avoid it. So I've seen you doing drugs in community all because they came from a disadvantaged background. So just creating that opportunity that the family, they have sustainable housing, they can get an income from it, and you can start planning if you want to take your child to university. So seeing those youth, just seeing the possibilities out there. And I'm one of the guys now who, when I see the young guys doing fun stuff, I would just call them into order and they would listen. And it's very shocking that they actually listen to me because it's just shocking. The respect that I actually get just
So no,
from being a person.
tell me. No, Njele, how have you influenced other young people in your community? Because I can imagine, Uguti, you're a Grootman now. Like people the other young people look up to you because they see you as an example. So how do you think you have influenced other young people in your community to, follow their purpose and do what they believe is what they're meant to be doing?
I'd say just from leading by example. So I'm the guy that everybody in my neighborhood, even the young guys that are younger than me that smoke or even drink, everybody knows that I don't drink or smoke. So normally I'm the type of guy that would choke you against something if I don't do it myself. It's actually hard for me to tell someone young to do something if I'm also partaking in those activities. So I'm the guy where I greet everybody in my hood, everybody knows me, and if they're doing something that's wrong and I just talk to them, sometimes just trying my luck. And I'm actually shocked that they actually give me that respect and they actually listen. But it's all because I lead everything that I do and ask them not to do. It's something that myself lead by example in. So I've become some sort of mentor around the township, where I talk to the young guys if they have business ideas, and they come through and they talk to me. So one of the things that I've done, especially when I do interviews, I've always mentioned the fact that I dropped out of high school. So some people would look at that as a bad thing. That because I had one lady once saying that you didn't have to tell us that you actually dropped out of high school. I'm saying no, I don't do it because I see it as a bad thing. It's just I want to show people the possibilities that are out there, that because you don't have a matric or you didn't go to university, you shouldn't think that you can't actually go after big dreams. So I have these guys that would come to me and saying, because I come from the same hood and they saw me make it, or they were putting the work, they want to know how they can actually go the same route. So we constantly have these discussions where I have 5 or 6 of them, and we bounce around ideas, and I tell them to come through if they want to use the internet, if they want to do some sort of application, if they want to find out which channels they can actually explore to actually take their ideas forward. I'm saying there's no better idea. If it doesn't work, it's just going to lead to another better idea. And you don't always have to invent the wheel. You can base so stuff that I've actually learned that I know most of the guys in the township could not get access to. I'm now transferring the knowledge and giving them a platform saying, I can't take you to the river. I can take you to the river, but I can't make you drink. So I can only give you the information. It's up to you how you consume it and actually how you use it. So those are some of the things that I have so many people who actually look up to me around the community, and I try to mostly lead by example. So that's basically how it's been so far.
And with you saying that, like, what is the importance of having like relatable role models? Because I think we often look to people that are very far. We look at people overseas, billionaires. We look at people that are not necessarily close to home. So how important is it to have people that you can relate to, that you can look up to? And who would you say was your role model? Or who is your role model?
Well, one of my biggest also, it's actually important to actually see someone you can actually relate to from a South African context, because you'll find that we look up to Bill Gates or even Mark Zuckerberg, but we come from a different environment where if they come up with ideas, they can access funding, Silicon Valley, and this and this and that, this works. And some of the businesses do not work in the South African context. We dealing with a different type of animal when it comes to South Africa. Even when we had to implement the lockdown rules, we would replicate what they're doing in France. But the challenges here are totally different because we have Alex, we have this and that. The taxi system here is different. So it's always nice when you come across people that come up with solutions that solve problems that you can actually relate to and understand. So it's not something that you have to try to visualize and see how it actually works. It's something that you actually experience. You can relate with it. So this is a solution that came with for taxis, and you read that whenever I'm in a taxi, these are challenges, this and that. So it's always nice when you see people come up with solutions that you actually relate to and understand. And even when you see them raising so much funding, and you realize that if I came up with something that's unique in solving a problem, then I know that I can also go to that level. Because when you hear the background, they tell you this guy was arrested, this guy grew in his household, and you see yourself in their shoes. So that actually plays a huge role. And one of my biggest role models at the moment is actually Elon Musk. I remember since 2017 when I applied for the Red Bull Amaphiko program, we actually had a column where they asked you a question, who are your actual role models? I like how he, not just the fact that he's actually from South Africa, but the mere fact that of how he puts everything together. So he creates an electric car, he creates a battery system, he creates a charging system for his car, he creates a solar system. So that's basically how I try to look at housing, where we try to control the value chain, because we can't control the cost of the housing if we have to rely on the supplier. So I'm mostly cutting out the middleman. I want to get the sand from the quarries. So I like the way he actually applies the overall system thinking. So he's one of my biggest role models because of he's solving a problem and of how he actually links everything together.
Awesome. And like, okay, we're all here, it's lockdown. A lot of us are thinking about what happens after lockdown, and how we're going to be doing things differently. And I need to, we're all stuck at home now, so we've all got these big ideas on how we're going to go forward in a different way. What is the one thing that you're looking forward to post lockdown? What's the one thing that you're just, I can't wait to do A, B, and C? What's that for you?
I think for us, we basically planning on hitting the ground running. We were lucky enough with the recent win that we have the funds to actually scale and do more projects. So even before lockdown, we didn't know if we were gonna get something out of it. So we're constantly trying to enter different competitions to try and raise funds because we have to finance most of our projects. Now, just knowing that we actually have the funds and we have enough funds to buy the equipment that we need, we're now at a point where we just have to prove the business works and just focus on executing projects. So that's one of the things I'm actually looking forward to.
I am so excited for what you're going to do, because I know you're always coming up with something different. Every time I speak to you, there's something else. I mean, when you started out, they weren't recyclable bricks, and now that's what you're doing. You're telling me about how you're always trying to work together and collaborate with other entrepreneurs, and I can't wait to see what else it is that you're going to come up with and how you're going to make this model even better. I don't even know how you do it, but you always just manage to make it better every time I speak to you, and I'm so honored to have had the opportunity to speak to you. I I am very inspired. Every time I speak to you, I feel very inspired, because you're always showing me that challenges are not there just to make you feel some sort of way, but they're there to help you grow. So thank you. Thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for just the love that you have for what you do, and helping other people.
Now,
Yeah,
thank you
Bob.
for having me, Susanda. I always enjoy having a chat with you because the difficult questions that you actually asked actually helped me also discover stuff about myself because I never realized some of these things. I have to think from based on a true story on something that's actually real when I have to answer. So, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Nhlanhla. Ngiyabonga. And keep safe.
You too, Susan. See you soon.